Srimad is Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Sri Caitanya Caritamrita ki Sri Gaurnitai ki Sri Radha Govardhana Dari ki Sri Krishna Balaram Sri Giriraj Govardhan ki Gauda Premanandi. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Reading from Sri Chaitanya Caritamrita, Adi-lila, chapter 9, text number 44. Mali Manusya Amara Nahi Rajadana Falafula Diyakari Punya Upajana Mali Manusya Amara Nahi Rajadana Falafula Diyakari Punya Upajana. So, Mali, gardener, Manusya, man, man, Amara, my, Nahi, there is none, Raja, kingdom, Dana, wealth, Phala, fruit, Phula, flowers, Diya, giving, Kari, do, Punya, piety, Upajana, achievement. Translation. I am merely a gardener. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the speaker here. I have neither a kingdom nor very great riches. I simply have some fruits and flowers that I wish to utilize to achieve piety in my life. Please repeat. I am merely a gardener. I have neither a kingdom nor very great riches. I simply have some fruits and flowers that I wish to utilize to achieve piety in my life. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In performing welfare activities for human society, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu presents himself as being not very rich, thus indicating that a man need not be rich or opulent to act for the welfare of humanity. Sometimes rich men are very proud that they can perform beneficial activities for human society, whereas others cannot. A practical example is that when there is a scarcity of food in India on account of meagre rainfall, some members of the richer class very proudly distribute foodstuffs, making huge arrangements with the help of the government, as if merely by such activities people will be benefited. Suppose there were no food grains, how would the rich men distribute food? Production of grains is completely in the hands of God. If there were no rain, there would be no grains, and the so-called rich men would be unable to distribute grains to the people. The real purpose of life, therefore, is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Rupa Goswami describes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that devotional service is so exalted that it is beneficial and auspicious for every man. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also declared that to propagate the bhakti cult of devotional service in human society, one does not need to be very rich. Anyone can do it, and thus render the highest benefit to humanity if he knows the art. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes the part of a gardener because although a gardener is naturally not a very rich man, he has some fruits and flowers. Any man can collect some fruits and flowers and satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service, as recommended in Bhagavad Gita. Patram pushvam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tad aham bhaktuparitam ashnami prayatatmanaha. Bhagavad Gita 9:26. One cannot satisfy the Supreme Lord by his riches, wealth, or opulent position, but anyone can collect a little fruit or flower and offer it to the Lord. The Lord says that if one brings such an offering in devotion, he will accept it and eat it. When Krishna eats, the entire world becomes satisfied. There is a story in the Mahabharata illustrating how by Krishna's eating, the 60,000 disciples of Devasa Muni were all satisfied. Therefore, it is a fact that by our life, pranaya, by our wealth, artaya, by our intelligence, diya, or by our words, vacha, we can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Naturally, the entire world will become happy. Therefore, our main duty is to satisfy the Supreme Godhead by our actions, our money, and our words. This is very simple. Even if one does not have money, he can preach the Hare Krishna mantra to everyone. One can go everywhere to every home and request everyone to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Thus the entire world situation will become very happy and peaceful. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudavani Pacharane Nivasesha Shunnivari Paskachadi Satarane Mama Gyana Timinandasya Ginanjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmanitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lang Hete Gurum Takti Patamaham Vande Sri Gurum Dimataranam. So I will come back to this verse and purport in just a couple of minutes, but as we said, today is the start of Ladies' Week in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, because today is the very auspicious appearance day of Srimati Sita Thakurani, and tomorrow is the appearance day of Lalita Sakhi, and Tuesday, speaking closer, is that better? Okay. And Tuesday, of course, is the most auspicious Srimati Radharani, Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani's appearance day, Radhastami. So we will come back, but just wanted to say something about Srimati Sita Thakurani, which is mentioned, and she's mentioned and described wonderfully in many places in our Gaudiya Vaishnava literatures, especially this Caitanya Caritamrita. She was the daughter of one Nrsinga Badhuri and his wife Nrsingi Badhuri. They must have been devotees of Lord Narasimhadev. And she had a twin sister whose name was Sri. And she is described in the Gaura Parshada Charitavali as the incarnation of Purnamasi or Yogamaya from Krishna's pastimes. And she was the mother during Krishna's Lila of Sandipani Muni, Krishna's and Balaram's teacher at their Gurukula. And the grandmother of Madhu Mangala and Nandi Mukhi. And she was a disciple, or is a disciple, of Narada Muni. She's a very exalted personality, Sita Thakurani. And she and her twin sister both became the wives of Advaita Acharya. And she's described as the eternal wife of Sri Advaita Acharya. And there were 6 sons in the family, and 3 of them are very famous, Achyutananda, Krishna Mishra, and Gopal Mishra. And those 3 were very staunch followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there's a wonderful pastime of Achyutananda, the youngest son. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted an initiation in Gaya from Ishwarapuri and returned to Navadvip, it was a big event. Everyone heard about it. And at that time, Achyutananda was just a 5-year-old boy. And he complained to his parents, Advaita Acharya and Sita Thakurani, and other elders who were present, "What is this nonsense I hear that our Lord Gaurasundar has taken initiation from a spiritual master? He is the spiritual master of the entire universe. How can anyone be his spiritual master?" So the parents and other elders were astonished. 5-year-old boy has such a profound realization, so much. And it said that Sita Thakurani and her husband Advaita Acharya would regularly, for at least the first 6 years after Mahaprabhu accepted the renounced order of life, they would go every year to see Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. But before that time, she was very active in the childhood pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. It's said that when Sita Thakurani heard that Mahaprabhu had appeared, she immediately went in a palanquin, and there was another palanquin which was full of gifts for the divine child, full of dresses and ornaments and silken children's clothes, jeweled necklaces including tiger nails set in gold, fresh grass, turmeric, kumkum, sandalwood. And actually the name Nimai, which is one of Lord Chaitanya's many names, was awarded to him by Sita Thakurani because Mahaprabhu appeared beneath a neem tree. And neem trees are considered very auspicious. Not only are neem leaves, and we have our one neem tree out here, and I think there is one other neem tree growing somewhere on New Govardhana, so I've been told. So neem trees are considered very auspicious medicinally. They're very good internally for the body. But Sita Thakurani also understood that neem trees are very good for keeping bad influences, evil spirits away from a newborn child, ghosts and witches and so on. So she named the child Nimai, which is one of Mahaprabhu's many wonderful names. And she would be the first person to worship Lord Chaitanya at all the auspicious ceremonies which are held during a child's life. She was offered that honour of worshipping him first. And it's said that she and Mother Sachi were of one mind, and that was they knew no other service but rendering service to Nimai, Lord Gaura Hari. That was her only, she's a very exalted Vaishnavi in Vatsalya Rasa, or parental affection for Krishna. And she also observed that apart from the coloration, there was no difference between Lord Chaitanya as a baby and Lord Sri Krishna. And she gave great comfort to Mother Sachi, both after Vishvarup's leaving home and especially after Lord Chaitanya's acceptance of sannyas. She spent 4 days constantly pacifying Mother Sachi and also Jagannath Mishra when their sons left home. And she cooked for Lord Chaitanya when Mahaprabhu did come back after accepting sannyas to their home in Shantipur. We know that in his ecstasy of love of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wandered for 4 days in the Radhadesh district, not far from Navadvip and Mayapur. But then Nityananda, by some trickery, brought Mahaprabhu in his ecstasy to the home of Advaita Acharya in Shantipur. And it was at that time that Sita Thakurani took great pleasure in cooking all of Lord Gauranga's favourite preparations and feeding him. So it's said that there were 4. There was a quartet of exalted Vaishnavis, first generation, who took care of Lord Chaitanya for those first 24 years of his life until his acceptance of sannyas. And of course his mother, Sachi Devi, and the Lord had 2 consorts, but Lakshmi Priya, who passed away sadly at an early age, and then the Lord remarried. So Vishnu Priya was the second, Malini, the wife of Srivas Thakur, and Sita Thakurani. So these 4 exalted Vaishnavis, first generation, and they gave impetus, it's said, to the mission of Lord Chaitanya. So, wonderful, exalted personality. She was a little bit older than Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi, and as she had done during Krishna's pastimes, she would come regularly and give good advice to Sachi Devi on how to raise the child. She was vastly experienced and of course had 6 sons of her own, so she would regularly come and give advice to Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi how best to raise Nimai. So that's just a little bit about this auspicious day, Srimati Sita Thakurani. So this is a wonderful verse and purport. Many very wonderful points Srila Prabhupada is making here. And of course Mahaprabhu is referring to himself, I'm merely a gardener. I have neither a kingdom nor great riches. I simply have some fruits and flowers that I wish to utilize to achieve piety in my life. It's said that the Caitanya branch of the Madhva Sampradaya, of course we're coming in the Brahma Sampradaya, there are 4 exalted personalities. There is also the Sri Sampradaya, in which the great Ramanuja Acharya appeared, and there is the Rudra Sampradaya. Vishnu Swami appeared, and Nimbaka Swami appeared in the Kumara Sampradaya. And in the Brahma Sampradaya, the great Acharya Madhva appeared, and the Gaudiya Sampradaya is sometimes described like a branch of the Madhva Sampradaya. But the Gaudiya Sampradaya, the Gaudiya branch of the Madhva Sampradaya, is very interesting in the sense that branches have things that trunks don't have. And that's exactly what Mahaprabhu is referring to here. Branches of trees have fruits and flowers. Trunks of trees don't. So even though we come in what is often referred to as the Madhva line, Mahaprabhu's unique and wonderful contribution, the fruits and flowers, is his breaking open the storehouse of love of Godhead and freely distributing the contents, not caring who is qualified, who is unqualified, simply giving away very munificently, very magnanimously this rare treasure of love of Godhead, with special emphasis on the very exalted and intimate pastimes of the Supreme Lord in Brajadam, Sri Vrindavan. The relationship the Lord has with his friends, the cowherd boyfriends, in Sakya Ras. We've mentioned something about Vatsalya Ras, parental affection, and Madhurya Rasa, the Lord's wonderful joking and friendly pastimes with his Braja Gopis, the girlfriends in Vrindavan. So that is Mahaprabhu's very unique contribution. Of course, he was very measured in how he did that 500 years ago. With the general masses of people, he introduced and propagated the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and other wonderful devotional songs, Hari Haraya Nama Krishna, Yadavaya Namaha, etc. And Sarup Damodar, the Lord's secretary, was very expert at singing the appropriate devotional songs depending on the occasion, such as at Rathayatra festivals and so on, according to the mood of Mahaprabhu at the time. So Lord Chaitanya did that very wonderfully, propagating Harinam Sankirtan and encouraging people to chant Krishna's names. And with a few very confidential and intimate associates, he would discuss the Lord's Vrindavan pastimes, Swarup Damodar, Ramananda Roy, Sikhi Mahiti, and Sikhi Mahiti's sister, Madhavi Devi. And of course with others, very exalted personalities like Rupa, Sanatan, Raghunath Das was often privy to these discussions as well. So that is Mahaprabhu's magnanimity. And of course, we're very fortunate to have that opportunity. And Prabhupada mentions wonderfully here how different times there is drought, and rich persons, they like to perform, which is a very noble thing to do, purchase foodstuffs and distribute in cooperation with the government to needy people. But often people do not appreciate where the foodstuffs originally are coming from. And Prabhupada was experienced having seen how communism actually spread in different states of India, even in his native state of Bengal. For many, many years, actually, it was a communist government. And Prabhupada observed how communism actually spread because the communists would come into a village which was where there was some need, and the communists would say to the local simple village people, what is the need of you going to temple and praying to God? Why don't you ask us for bread? So, of course, many of us know from our Christian upbringing, give us today our daily bread. One prayer is there like that. So the communists would say, why don't you ask us for bread? And of course, strategically situated, parked around the corner, would be one large truck full of loaves of bread. So the simple village people would say, oh dear communist friends, please give us something to eat. And at that time, the signal would be given, big truck load of foodstuffs would roar around, and simple people would think, well, actually, our communist friends, they are, yes, what is the need? We're going to temple, and sometimes our prayers are answered, sometimes they aren't answered. So in this way, communism was spread. Prabhupada also noted that it was spread with just one book. Not sure exactly what that book was, but possibly some quotes from Karl Marx and Lenin and Stalin and other atheists. Of course, famous quote is there that religion is the opiate of the people. So, of course, nothing could be further from the truth, because actually it's the performance of yajna, or sacrifice, that produces rain, which produces grains, which not only human beings can flourish and prosper, but of course no life goes on without the regular. And rains are produced by sacrifice. When the demigods are pleased, when the Supreme Lord is pleased, then we get plentiful rainfall. It's like all of us who maintain a household know, you get bills. They come. They never miss. Either electronically or by paper mail, they will arrive in your inbox or your letterbox, your telephone bill, your water bill, your rates, your electricity bill, and so on and so forth. And you have to pay those bills. Otherwise, everything gets cut off. You no longer have electricity to your home or water. Your phone gets cut off and so on. And it becomes very problematic to get it put back on. So this is the secret of actually flourishing, at least maintaining, is performance of yajna. And we know recommended yajna in this age of Kali is Harinam Sankirtan. We're very fortunate to be able to perform this yajna, which is very simple, and as Prabhupada mentions, anyone can, what to speak of playing musical instruments, anyone can just clap their hands and chant Hare Krishna. And towards the end of his purport he mentions, one can go anywhere to every home and request everyone to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Thus the entire world situation will become very happy and peaceful. Prabhupada was asked once, what is the purpose, by a reporter, of the Hare Krishna movement? Prabhupada replied, to chant Hare Krishna and to spread Hare Krishna. Very concise answer. So, and of course, in that way, individually and collectively, everyone's life becomes auspicious. Mahaprabhu is describing, he wants to achieve some piety in his life. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has very wonderfully sung in one of his many songs, Manasa Deho Geho Yo Kichu More Apilum Tua Pade Nanda Kishore. Manasa, my mind, Deho, my body, Geho, which is simple Bengali language for griha or home. Everything, my dear Lord, is yours, O youthful son of Nanda. And it's said that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually, whilst performing arati to the Lord in his own home, saw on one occasion that his whole home was transformed into Goloka Vrindavan. So we all know we come into this world with nothing and we leave with nothing. In between, we may accumulate some possessions, but it's all temporary. And though we may temporarily refer to my wife or husband, our children, grandchildren, and so on, these are all, of course, very temporary relationships in this world, which come and go. And but Vyasadeva in Srimad Bhagavatam is trying to encourage us to become free of the bodily conception of life, as is Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, and not see things in the terms of I and mine. To become free of this possessiveness. We may have important relationships in family life, especially. We have to do our duty. Otherwise we won't be in family life very long. Family members will abandon us and go and find someone else who can take care of them. But at least the tendency, the propensity for possessiveness, intense as it may be, we have to somehow or other try to learn a little bit of detachment. There was a pastime in the life of Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji where one other Babaji came to him one day and very excitedly told him that he had just purchased some land in Vrindavan. So Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj very mercifully chastised that devotee and said, what is this? This is a massive illusion to think that you can possess some property in Vrindavan. Every speck of dust is Chintamani here. This is Srimati Radharani's property. She is Vrindavaneshwari. So in that way he very mercifully corrected that devotee's misunderstanding. Of course, there is in the beautiful prayers of Queen Kunti, she prays to Krishna that she's a very exalted personality, Queen Kunti, the aunt of the Lord, and she understands full well who Krishna is. He's the Supreme Lord, and she has a very familiar relationship with him, also in Vatsalya Rasa. Tvam akinchana gopchara is the last line of one of her many famous prayers, where she is revealing that you, my dear Lord, you are the possession of the materially impoverished, or those who think they don't have anything. They may have something, and a devotee may well have a nice house, a beautiful wife or handsome husband, beautiful children, may even have a big bank balance, but he or she doesn't think they possess anything. I heard one story recently, been listening to some of Dinabandhu Prabhu's wonderful lectures, and he went and stayed at a devotee's house in America, and this devotee showed him around his house and introduced family members that this belongs to Krishna. This belongs to Krishna. This is Krishna's. In this way, everything in the household. And then he showed Dinabandhu Prabhu his worshipable deity, and he said, he's mine. Everything else belongs to Krishna, he's mine. So this devotee obviously had wonderful realization. That is a good realization to have. And of course Bhagavatam also gives the example, and those of us who have been walking the beaches, chanting our rounds in recent times, know full well how the tides come in twice a day and go out. When they come in, they bring with them so much flotsam and jetsam. So many things get washed up on the beach, just hopefully all organic, but sometimes not. But different pieces of seaweed wash up, and they're left there for some hours, and then another high tide comes in and takes them out to sea again, and for a period of time they may be very tightly bound up with other pieces of seaweed. But then by the actions of the ocean's waves, they're taken back out to sea, and they become disentangled with one another, never to be seen again. So in the same way, in material life, we see we become very intimately connected with certain personalities, but by the action of the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion and ignorance, then after some period of time, those connections, those intimate relationships quite often end, and they will all eventually end when these bodies are finished, and everyone goes somewhere else. So this is the wonderful teaching which we have in Krishna consciousness. So I might stop there this morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be back here at New Govardhana after our recent separation. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. I have been thinking of Prabhupada's incredible struggle the first year he was in America, living alone, living in different people's homes, struggling to try and start the Krishna consciousness movement as he'd been ordered to do. Sometimes going to the Scindia Steamship Company office in New York, seeing when the ships were going back to India, and they were regularly coming and going. But Prabhupada said, well, nothing has happened yet, but let me just stay a little bit longer. And eventually, of course, the wonderful breakthrough came through on the Lower East Side of New York by the kindness of our Venerable Mukunda Maharaj and other early friends, as Prabhupada referred to them as, located one storefront which was for rent, chipped in to pay the first month or two's rent, and the rest is history, as we say. But Prabhupada did write during that first intense year of struggle that he was very much feeling the separation of his beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham and the deities of Radha and Krishna there, the Goswami's deities who he was in the habit of regularly visiting every day. So that separation is there in spiritual life. And of course we're very happy to be back here having darshan of their lordships and seeing all our wonderful devotee friends. So if anyone has a question or comment this morning, Mani Bandagopal, is there yeah, just next to the mridanga.
Yes, welcome back to Lord. Nice to see you again.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
You mentioned that Sri Thakurani is one who gave Lord Caitanya the name Nimai because he was born under a Nimai tree. So one thing I've always never properly understood in Caitanya Bhagavatam mentions that at the time of his birth, the ladies and another were discussing what his name should be, and one lady said, he didn't mention who it was, but that because he will have no younger brothers or sisters, his name should be Nimai. But I've never understood exactly on what basis that was. I mean, my speculation is, without any real basis for it, is like neem leaves are a bit bitter because he doesn't have brothers and sisters and everything is about family, you know, West Bengal. It's going to be a bitter life, but I've got no idea if that's it or not.
Bengali, Prabhu, you know something? Yes. No, okay. No, well, in the sense that, as we mentioned, Sita Thakurani was very protective of the child, and it does have both the internal medicinal properties, but also subtle protection from ghosts and spirits. And also the fact that she knew very well that Sachimata had lost a number of daughters at birth. So she was also anxious. Of course, Vishwarupa had sustained his life, older brother of Mahaprabhu. So perhaps Sita Thakurani was also concerned that because Sachimata had lost so many daughters earlier, but I have not, I can't shed any light unless anyone else knows something. It's a good question. Nimai means filled with inner light. Correct? Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I've asked many devotees.
Yeah.
I can't get any response.
We're getting, Vasistresser also has a comment way back. Yeah, microphone's coming, Vasistresser. You can yell it out.
When you were speaking about Srila Prabhupada doing it really hard, a couple of years ago I went to the other New Govardhana in India. There's a little replica of the rooms that Prabhupada was staying in the Srimad Temple. And there was an inventory there. I don't know if it was a copy obviously it was a copy of his sort of daily expenses and income. And before he got the storefront, he recorded everything, like 15 cents for a bus fare, 35 cents for a pound of sugar, and so on. And then, one Bhagavatam sold, $3, donation. So it was all this sort of really, really low figures, right? So you could just see how tight it was for him. But then when he got the storefront, then it started to go up a little bit. A couple of Bhagavatam sold, donations went up to $10, $15 a day, and the expenses, and then after that it went up exponentially. That's when his living took off. But it was very, very interesting to see how he documented everything in the early days.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice. Yes, great struggle. Something else? Krishna Kirtan. It's okay. No microphones anywhere get a harder life than in a Hare Krishna temple. Oh, getting serious here. Got Swiss Army knife there. Oh. That's okay. You can. I can repeat it. I can repeat the comment.
Thank you, Prabhu. Now, just in the purport, Prabhupada touches on the Devasa Muni 60,000 disciples become satisfied simply by what Krishna receiving them all, something all these property, as we know. So then we see another yuga, especially Treta and Vorpa, there would be jagnas performed for the benefit of all and Draupadi worship. So my question is, we're talking about the same kind of movement of Caitanya, does every single person have to be involved for the Lord to be pleased, or is it enough of the Hare Krishna movement as we are to go on and chant Hare Krishna, or how does it work? Does every single person have to be involved in the Sankirtan for the Lord to be fully pleased? Because we see that the demigods certainly aren't pleased at the moment. There's all sorts of droughts and calamities and things aren't in the proper order. So just ask a question.
Well, we heard from Mukunda Maharaj some month or two back how there was a report, and I think it was the crime rate in America. Yeah, you remember this? And had gone down, had decreased in the past year or so. And Prabhupada tilted his head and said, yes, we will take credit for that. So, and of course, during the big Rath Yatra festivals in Los Angeles, along the beach side there, the police have always noted that when the Rath Yatra festival day takes place, there's practically no crime takes place in that vicinity, because everyone comes to Rath Yatra and everyone's engaged in a very wholesome way. So, no, not necessarily that everyone has to chant Hare Krishna, but the more people that do, then the world situation, both materially and spiritually, will improve. That said, we can't hold back the tide of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga will roll on, and it's mentioned that there is a brief golden period of approximately 10,000 years in the midst of Kali Yuga, and it's significant that Mahaprabhu appeared very early on in the Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga lasts for 432,000 years. It's a long time, and Krishna appeared right at the junction of the Dwapara and Kali Yugas, just as Kali Yuga was about to start, and just a very short time into Kali Yuga, Mahaprabhu appears to inaugurate the chanting, and then for 10,000 years things will be tolerable for the devotees, and we will be able to, as vigorously as possible, propagate Krishna consciousness to persons who are willing to listen and take it up. But then the situation will become too degraded, and those dire predictions are given in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's said that it's good to hope for the best, expect the worst, but hope for the best. And of course, even though things we're being very much restricted at this point in time, devotees can use negative situations as impetus to make spiritual progress, to get out and not take another birth, or not take too many more births in the material world. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has famously said, a cultured person goes to a latrine, does what they have to do, and they get out. They don't hang around. They're nasty places. So the material world, Kali, and is showing full force at the moment, and everyone is being affected and restricted. Prabhupada would speak very strongly, even right from the beginning in New York City. One lecture, he was explaining how everyone's fearful of death, bhaya, fear. And one young person objected that he wasn't fearful of death. Prabhupada responded, "Do you look left and right before crossing the busy road here in New York City?" The young man admitted he did. "Then you're afraid of death." Prabhupada said. It's obvious. Why would you step out unless you have a death wish into the busy traffic of Manhattan without first checking left? So, and of course in the past, people have sometimes challenged our devotee preachers. You Hare Krishnas, you should lighten up a little bit. It's not that bad. Live a little. We say, well, actually, we live a lot. We have a wonderful party every Sunday afternoon in normal times. We have fabulous festivals, singing, dancing, feasting, little philosophy. And we would always counter, well, actually, like that. Plus, it is actually that bad. It's even worse. And right now, the age is showing just a little hint. and it's going to get worse. So good impetus to seriously chant Krishna's names, study, and do what we can. So I've gone 1 minute over time, everyone. I better stop there. Jai Sri Caitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.